The room was hidden deep inside an alien station, far from any human eyes. Its walls were carved with glowing symbols, and the air was heavy with tension. Around a long, curved table sat leaders of different alien races, each one proud, each one certain that their kind ruled the stars. At the center of the room, a crystal device flickered to life. It carried stolen human footage, smuggled across battle lines at the cost of many spies. The aliens had gathered to watch it. Most of them expected a laugh. One alien, tall and insect-like, clicked his mandibles and sneered. Humans? They are a young race, loud, reckless, and fragile. Let us see their weakness exposed. Another, with scaled skin and burning yellow eyes, nodded. Yes, perhaps we can use this to mock them in the council. The lights dimmed, and the footage began. At first, nothing unusual appeared. A battlefield stretched across the screen. Smoke rising, ash falling like black snow, machines broken and scattered. Alien beasts roared in the distance, and warships hovered above, raining fire on the ground. Then, through the chaos, a lone figure emerged. It was a human soldier. His armor was cracked, his helmet scarred, but he walked forward as if the destruction around him was nothing. He held his weapon with steady hands, not shaking, not afraid. His steps were calm, like he had already chosen the outcome of the fight. The aliens watching leaned forward. Only one leader hissed. This is foolish. But the room grew silent when the battle shifted. The human suddenly charged. His movements were faster than the eye could follow. Explosions lit the air as he weaved between them. Enemy machines turned their cannons toward him, but their blasts missed as if he could read their aim before they fired. He leapt onto a giant walker, tore into its armor with precise strikes, and brought it crashing to the ground. The laughter some aliens had prepared never came. Instead, there were only gasps. "This is impossible," muttered a silver-skinned alien, his voice trembling. The footage zoomed in for a moment. The soldier's face was still hidden behind his shattered helmet, but his eyes, cold and sharp, flashed in the shadow. It was not the look of a man fighting for survival. It was the look of a predator. One alien shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps this recording was altered, but another shook his head. No, our spies risked everything to bring this. This is no lie. The human in the video faced a squad of alien warriors twice his size. They rushed him, weapons glowing, confident in their numbers. But he was faster. Before they could strike, they were already falling. His weapon cut, his fist struck, his movements predicted every attack before it landed. The chamber filled with silence again. None of the leaders dared to breathe loudly. The recording continued. Fire rained from the sky. Alien war beasts charged with armored claws, roaring so loud the ground trembled. Yet the human did not retreat. He moved with purpose, every strike ending in destruction. Machines that had crushed cities fell beneath his hands. Entire squads that once wiped out colonies were gone within moments. This was not a soldier. This was a storm in human form. When the smoke cleared, he stood alone on the battlefield. Around him were the broken remains of an army. Burning ships, shattered beasts, fallen machines. His armor was cracked, his body scarred, but he remained standing, breathing steady, his weapon still in his hand. The recording froze on that image. No one in the chamber spoke. Their earlier pride was gone. Arrogance had turned to unease. Finally, an old alien with faded scales leaned forward. His voice was quiet but heavy. "I know this presence," he whispered. The others turned sharply toward him. "What do you mean?" The old one's eyes darkened, and his hands trembled slightly. "This is not just a soldier. This is a name the stars once feared. A legend thought to be gone forever." A masked leader slammed his hand on the table. "No, that legend died long ago. He cannot be alive." But the old alien only shook his head. "Legends do not die. They wait, they hide, and when the galaxy grows arrogant, they return." The chamber grew colder. None dared to laugh anymore. The image of one human destroying an army had burned into their minds. If this was true, if the legend had returned, then every empire in that room was in danger. And for the first time in many years, the proud leaders of alien worlds felt something they had forgotten. Fear. The chamber remained silent after the recording ended. The screen was black now, but the image of the lone human soldier still burned in every alien's mind. No one dared to speak at first. Even the arrogant ones who laughed earlier kept their heads low, their mouths shut. The old alien with faded scales slowly leaned back in his chair. His voice cracked with age, yet it cut through the silence. "I know who he is." The words sent a chill across the room. Dozens of glowing alien eyes turned toward him. "Who?" demanded a tall creature with silver skin. His voice trembled, though he tried to hide it. The old alien hesitated, as if speaking the truth aloud would bring danger upon them all. His claws tapped the table nervously. Finally, he whispered the name. The sound was soft, but it struck like thunder. The younger aliens blinked in confusion. They had never heard it before. "What does that name mean?" one of them asked. The veterans, however, reacted differently. Their eyes widened. Some stiffened in their seats. A few looked away, unwilling to meet anyone's gaze. One leader's hands shook so badly that his cup of burning liquid slipped and spilled across the table. "That name," muttered one, "is a curse. Do not say it again." The chamber filled with tension. Some whispered to each other, their voices urgent and low. Others hissed in denial. "It cannot be him," a masked leader growled. "The legend is dead. He vanished long ago." The old alien shook his head. "No. You saw it with your own eyes. His movements, his strength, his fury, it is him. The galaxy called him the Phantom of War. Humans called him something else. A hero, a protector, a destroyer of empires." The silver-skinned alien slammed his fist on the table. "Lies. Humans do not have such warriors. They are a fragile race. But he stopped. He remembered the recording. He remembered how one man destroyed armies. His voice broke before he could finish. The younger aliens, still confused, leaned forward. "Tell us," one demanded. "What did he do? Why does this name bring fear?" The old alien's eyes turned cold. His voice was slow, heavy, like he carried the weight of centuries. "He destroyed the Karth Dominion in a single campaign. Their fleets outnumbered the humans 10-1. He broke them in 3 battles. Entire worlds surrendered when they heard he was coming. He did not need armies. He was the army." Gasps spread across the chamber. Another leader spoke in disbelief. "The Karth Dominion? That empire ruled 50 systems. Are you saying one human ended them?" The old alien nodded. "Yes, and when he disappeared, the galaxy finally breathed again. Many believed him dead. Others hoped it. But legends do not die so easily. And now, he has returned." The younger aliens looked at each other nervously. The older ones stared at the table, silent, as if remembering things they wished to forget. One alien, a warlord with jagged armor, hissed angrily. "This is fear talking. I will not bow to a ghost. If he is alive, then he will bleed like any other." The old one looked at him sadly. "That is what the Karth said before they vanished. That is what many said, until their fleets burned." The warlord's face darkened, but he had no reply. The chamber grew restless. Voices rose, arguments began. "He must be hunted down before he strikes again," shouted one. "No," argued another. "Hunting him will only draw his attention. If he is who we think, then war with him is suicide. He is just one man who fights like 1,000. The voices clashed, anger and fear mixing together until the chamber was filled with chaos. Then the old alien raised his voice, louder than before. "Do you not see? It does not matter if you believe or deny. The truth is before you. The legend has returned. The Phantom walks again. And if he comes for us, none of us are safe." The arguments died instantly. Every leader sat frozen in place. The whisper of the name still echoed in their ears, growing heavier with every passing second. In the silence, The youngest alien leader asked quietly, "What do humans call him?" The old one's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped so low it felt like a growl. "They call him the ghost of retribution." The chamber fell into complete silence. Not even the machines hummed anymore. It was as if the very station itself held its breath. For the first time in many years, alien rulers who commanded fleets and ruled empires felt powerless. They had seen something they could not unsee. They had heard a name they could not forget. And deep inside, each of them understood one thing. The galaxy had woken up a legend it should have left sleeping. The chamber was no longer filled with arrogance. The laughter that once echoed against the metal walls was gone. In its place, silence spread like poison. The whispered name still lingered in every corner, pressing down on the alien leaders like an invisible weight. For the first time, the mighty council of different empires looked uneasy. Their glowing eyes shifted nervously, their claws tapped against the table, and their voices were low and broken. The masked leader, who once shouted the loudest, was the first to speak. "We must not allow panic to guide us," he said, though even behind his mask, his voice shook. "This recording shows only one battle. Perhaps it is not the legend we fear." But the old alien, the one who had whispered the name, leaned forward. His faded scales caught the dim light, and his voice was sharp. "Do you think I would mistake him? I was there when he brought the Dominion to its knees. I watched their fleets burn. I still remember the cries of their dying warriors, and I will never forget the shadow of his eyes. It is him." The silver-skinned alien leader slammed his hands on the table. "If it is him," he shouted, "then what are we to do? Hide? Beg for peace?" The words sent shivers across the chamber. Peace with humans? Begging to a race they once called primitive? The thought itself was bitter, but the silence that followed showed no one was brave enough to dismiss it completely. One of the younger leaders stood up suddenly. His voice carried anger more than fear. "We outnumber them. Humanity is only one species among thousands. Their fleets are small. If this so-called legend is real, then let us crush him before he becomes more than a ghost." His words were bold, but his hands trembled where they rested on the table. The old alien laughed bitterly, a dry sound. "Crush him? Many have tried. Empires larger than yours. Armies stronger than yours. Fleets older and wiser than yours. Where are they now? Dust." Silence. The younger one sat down quickly, his face pale. The chamber grew heavy again. Fear crept into the air, making it hard to breathe. These were rulers, conquerors, masters of their worlds. Yet the mention of one human had reduced them to whispers and doubts. One of the masked leaders spoke again, his voice low this time. "Perhaps we can contain the story. Do not let the others know. If the smaller empires hear of this legend's return, panic will spread across the stars." Another hissed in response. "Do you think fear can be contained? Already whispers will escape this room. Already rumors will travel faster than light. Every commander, every soldier, every child in the colonies will soon hear the name again. And when they hear it, they will remember the old wars." The aliens shifted uncomfortably. Some leaders had lived through those wars. Some had lost brothers, fleets, and whole planets to the human shadow that moved like a storm. The silver-skinned alien lowered his voice, as if speaking to himself. "It is said he never rested, that even after battles, when others slept, he was always awake, planning, watching." Another nodded slowly. "Yes, he never fought only with weapons. He fought with fear. He let his enemies destroy themselves before he even struck." The chamber trembled with unease. The legend was not only a warrior. He was something greater, an idea, a nightmare that no weapon could kill. The old alien leaned back, his eyes dark. "And now he has returned. Stronger, wiser, hidden in shadows. Do you not see? The galaxy will not unite against him. The galaxy will divide. Some will run. Some will fight. But all will fall." The council erupted again, voices clashing in panic. "We must strike first. No, we must hide our fleets. Better to make peace than face extinction." Peace? With humans? With him? Impossible. The arguments grew louder, filling the chamber with chaos. Leaders who once commanded billions now sounded like frightened children. And then, suddenly, the lights flickered. The chamber fell into darkness for a moment. The arguing stopped instantly. Every eye turned toward the screen, half expecting it to come alive again. But the screen remained black. Only the faint glow of the table lit their faces. The silence after the flicker was worse than the noise. Felt as if someone, or something, was watching them. The old alien broke the silence. His voice was heavy, final. The Council is not in control anymore. Not of this war. Not of this galaxy. From the moment that recording played, from the moment we saw him again, we lost. The question is not how to stop him. The question is, who will he come for first? No one had an answer. Not one dared to speak. The council of powerful rulers sat frozen in fear, staring at the dark screen, haunted by the return of a name they wished had stayed buried. For in their hearts, they all knew the truth. A dangerous legend had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The chamber was heavy with silence, but in the minds of the older aliens, old memories began to awaken. Memories they had tried to bury. Memories they wished had faded with time. One of the elders, his horns chipped from age, finally spoke. You young ones do not understand. You see only a man in armor. But we, the old, we know what he truly is. I fought against him once. I survived, but my brothers did not. Every eye turned toward him. The younger leaders leaned closer, eager yet afraid to hear. The elder's voice trembled as he continued. Long ago, before most of you were born, the galaxy thought humanity was weak. Many empires believed they could crush Earth and claim its resources. The Karth Dominion was the first to try. They had fleets that blotted out the stars. They had beasts bred for war, machines that consumed entire cities. They thought they would make humanity kneel. His hands curled into fists. But they did not expect him. The council chamber darkened with his words. The silence was sharp. Another veteran, a scaled warrior with one blind eye, added his voice. Yes, I was there too, at the siege of Draven. Do you know what happened? Thousands of ships surrounded one human fleet. We laughed at them. We thought victory was certain. But he was there. He commanded not with fear, not with pride, but with something colder. He tricked our fleets into turning on each other. He set traps we could not escape. In 3 days, our numbers fell from thousands to a few hundred. In 3 days, our laughter became screams. The younger aliens shifted nervously. One whispered, "This cannot be true. No single man could." But the elder cut him off. He was not just a man. He was a storm. He moved where we thought he could not. He struck when we thought him broken. Every time we thought him defeated, he returned stronger. Entire worlds fell to despair when they heard his name. The silver-skinned alien clenched his jaw. And yet he vanished. If he was so powerful, why did he disappear? The blind-eyed warrior lowered his gaze. Some say he was too dangerous, even for humans. Some say their own leaders sent him away. Others whisper he walked into the shadows by choice. But none of us truly know. We only prayed it was the end. The chamber grew colder as the past resurfaced. Every elder who had lived through those wars looked haunted. Every younger leader sat in silence, realizing the stories were not myths but scars carried by survivors. Another alien, tall and insect-like, tapped the table with his claw. I once heard a rumor, he said slowly, that he swore an oath, that he would return only if the galaxy dared to threaten humanity again. His words sent a ripple of fear through the room. The younger ones felt their throats dry. An oath? One asked. The insect-like leader nodded. Yes, an oath that if humans were hunted, if their colonies were touched, if their children were harmed, he would rise again. And now, he gestured toward the black screen. Now you have seen him. The masked leader slammed his hand on the table. Enough. These are old ghost stories. We are rulers, not children frightened by legends. One man cannot shape the stars. but his voice shook, betraying his fear. The elder with the horns leaned closer, his eyes burning. And yet you saw him, alone, surrounded, broken armor, wounded body. Still he stood. Still he fought. Tell me, if one man cannot shape the stars, then why are you trembling right now? The masked leader had no answer. The chamber fell quiet again, but this silence was worse than before. It was the silence of realization. The younger aliens finally understood why the old ones whispered that name like a curse. This was not just a story told to scare children. This was history, carved into blood and fire. The old alien's voice grew softer, but every word was sharp. You cannot kill what has already become a legend. You cannot bury what refuses to stay dead. The past has awakened, and he has come back to finish what was left undone. The silver-skinned alien swallowed hard, his pride shrinking into fear. If he is truly back, then no empire is safe. The elder closed his eyes, remembering screams that never left his memory. No, not safe at all. For when he rises, he does not come for peace. He comes for justice, and justice in his hands is death. The chamber shivered with dread. No one dared to speak further. The buried past had been dug up, and its shadow stretched across every empire represented in that room. And in their hearts, they all knew the same truth. If the legend had returned, the galaxy would soon drown in his war again. The chamber was no longer united. The memory of the legend had already torn invisible cracks through the council. What once looked like a circle of powerful leaders now looked like a battlefield without weapons drawn. The old ones sat in silence, haunted by the past. The young ones burned with anger, unwilling to bow to fear. And in the middle, tension grew sharp enough to cut through the air. Finally, the warlord with jagged armor rose from his seat. His voice thundered across the chamber. Enough of these ghost stories. If the human phantom has returned, then we must kill him before he spreads terror again. Some nodded in agreement. They were young, full of pride, unwilling to admit fear. But the elder with broken horns shook his head slowly. You cannot kill him. Armies have tried. Empires have tried. And all of them now exist only in memory. Do you not see? To fight him is to invite destruction. The chamber erupted. You want us to sit and wait for him to strike first? One alien hissed. Better to make peace with humans, shouted another. Peace? With the murderers of our kind? Never. The voices grew louder, crashing like storms. Every leader shouted. Every claw slammed against the table. Every tongue spat fear and anger. The silver-skinned alien, who once mocked humans, now leaned forward, eyes burning with calculation. Do you not understand? This legend does not only threaten us individually. He threatens the balance of the entire galaxy. If one empire moves against him and fails, the others will fall next. If we are to survive, we must stand together. His words brought a strange silence, but only for a moment. The masked leader hissed. Stand together? With our enemies sitting in this very chamber? Do you truly believe your fleets would protect mine if the phantom came? No. You would let us burn, and when he turned his eyes toward you, you would hope to buy time. The chamber darkened with suspicion. The silence was replaced with low growls and whispers of betrayal. The insect-like leader clicked his mandibles. Perhaps we should not fear him. Perhaps we should use him. Imagine, if this legend could be captured, controlled, turned into a weapon for one empire alone. The suggestion made several leaders shift nervously. Some looked intrigued. Others looked horrified. The elder slammed his hand on the table. Fools! You cannot control him. He is not a beast to be chained. He is the storm itself. And the storm bows to no one. But it was too late. The seed of greed had been planted. Some leaders began whispering plans of traps, of hunters, of assassins. Others began whispering alliances. Not against the phantom, but against each other. The council was breaking apart. One of the younger leaders stood, his voice sharp. If you will not act, then I will. My fleets will search for him. If I kill him, the galaxy will remember my name above all others. Another leader shouted back, "And if he kills you, he will remember the weakness of your empire, and he will come for us all." The chamber boiled with division. The more they spoke, the more their unity shattered. Once they had sat together as rulers of the stars. Now they looked like frightened scavengers, each ready to betray the other for survival. The elder closed his eyes. "This is exactly what he wants," he whispered. The silver-skinned alien turned to him. "What do you mean?" The elder's voice was heavy. "He does not only fight with weapons. He fights with fear. He fights with doubt. And now look at you all. Already, before he has even lifted his sword against you, your alliances are broken. Your trust is gone. He is winning, without even being here." The chamber fell silent for a heartbeat. Every leader realized the truth in the old alien's words. Their shouting, their suspicion, their greed. It was the phantom's shadow pulling them apart. But silence did not last. The masked leader rose and pointed toward the others. "If you seek peace, you are a traitor. If you seek to capture him, you are a fool. If you seek to run, you are a coward. I will not stand with any of you." The insect-like leader hissed back, mandibles clicking with rage. "Then your empire will be the first to burn." Threats flew like arrows. The chamber trembled as leaders shouted and pointed, breaking centuries of fragile cooperation. The elder's heart sank. He could already see the future. Alliances were shattering. Treaties were crumbling. The galaxy was preparing not to face the phantom together, but to fight itself. And in the dark corners of the chamber, shadows seemed to stir. For somewhere out there, the legend was watching. Perhaps he had always been watching. The elder thought of the oath once whispered across dying stars. If humanity is threatened, he will rise again. He had risen, and without lifting a weapon, he had already begun to destroy the galaxy by turning its rulers against each other. The chamber erupted one last time, leaders shouting, alliances breaking, war already taking shape in their eyes. And as the chaos grew, one thought burned inside every mind. The phantom had returned, and he would not need to fight them all. They would destroy themselves for him. The council chamber had turned into chaos. Voices clashed, accusations flew, and threats poisoned the air. Empires that once sat as allies were now enemies in the same room. But none of them realized the darkest truth. Someone else was listening. Far away, in the shadows of space, a single ship drifted silently. Its surface absorbed the light of nearby stars, making it invisible to scanners. Inside the ship, a lone man sat before a wall of glowing screens. His armor was battered, scarred from countless battles. His eyes, cold and sharp, never blinked as he watched the chamber of alien leaders. The human legend had returned. He had hacked their systems days ago. Every word, every fear, every argument of the alien council was his to hear. And as they shouted at each other, he simply watched. A faint smirk touched his face. "They have not changed," he muttered to himself. "So proud, so divided. They think of traps, they think of betrayal, but not one of them thinks of standing together. That is why they will fall." On the screens, the council argued louder. Some demanded peace, others demanded war, and others whispered of capturing him. But to the man in the shadows, their words were only noise. He had seen this before. Every empire thought itself eternal. Every empire believed its strength would last forever. Yet all it took was fear of him, to make them tear themselves apart. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. Fear is the first weapon. Before the blade, before the gun, fear destroys more than any army. The ship hummed softly, its systems quiet as it drifted unseen. The legend's fingers moved across the controls, and the screens shifted. He was not only watching the chamber. He was watching their fleets, their colonies, their hidden bases. He knew more about them than they knew about themselves. In the council chamber, the old alien tried to calm the storm. "Do you not see? Even now, as you fight each other, he is winning. The phantom does not need to strike us. He will let us destroy ourselves." The masked leader shouted back, "Lies! He cannot hear us. He is not here." But the human legend smirked as those words echoed on his screen. "Oh, I am here," he whispered. His eyes moved to another display. It showed ships outside the alien station, fleets floating proudly, their weapons charged. He studied them quietly, marking weaknesses, memorizing positions. His mind worked like a machine, turning every detail into a strategy. "They build fleets," he muttered. "But fleets can be broken. They build alliances, but alliances can be shattered. What they do not understand is this: I have already stepped into their war. They just don't know it yet." Back in the chamber, the arguments grew violent. Leaders stood, claws raised, ready to strike each other. Guards rushed forward, holding them back. The council, once feared across the galaxy, now looked like frightened children tearing at each other's throats. The old alien closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "He is watching. I can feel it." And he was right. The human's ship drifted closer, still invisible. His fingers danced across controls, sending silent signals through the void. Slowly, the lights inside the council chamber flickered. The alien leaders froze. The room went dark for a second, and in that darkness, every one of them felt the weight of unseen eyes. When the lights returned, the masked leader shouted, "Who dares interfere with this council?" No one answered, but the human legend chuckled quietly in his ship. He had not spoken to them, not yet, but his presence was enough to make them tremble. On the screen, their faces were filled with fear. Some glanced around as if expecting him to appear in the shadows of their own chamber. Some whispered his name under their breath, afraid that even speaking too loudly would draw him closer. The man leaned forward, his face lit only by the glow of the screens. His voice was low, steady, filled with quiet power. "You speak of me as if I am a ghost. Perhaps I am. But remember this, ghosts do not fade. They wait, they watch, and when the time is right, they strike." He pressed a control, and the screens in front of him shifted again. Now they showed maps of entire sectors, fleets scattered across systems, planets guarded by proud banners of alien empires. His eyes scanned them, sharp and calculating. "They think they are safe," he whispered. "But safety is an illusion. Soon they will learn." Back in the chamber, the leaders could not agree on anything. Trust was gone. Fear had poisoned them. They were too busy fighting each other to realize that their greatest enemy was already among them. The human legend leaned back in his chair once more. He did not need to rush. The galaxy was falling apart on its own. All he had to do was wait for the right moment to step out of the shadows. And when that moment came, no empire, no fleet, no alliance would be enough to stop him. The council chamber shook with anger and fear. Voices clashed, claws slammed against the table, and threats filled the air. But outside the chamber, in the deep black of space, something far greater was happening. The fleets that circled the station, shining with alien banners and heavy with weapons, suddenly flickered on the legend's screens. One by one, their signals vanished. No sound of battle, no explosion. Just silence, as if entire ships had been swallowed by the void. Inside the chamber, the leaders froze as alarms began to scream. Red lights washed over their faces, and panic spread instantly. "What is happening?" one shouted. "The fleets," another cried. "They are vanishing." The masked leader slammed his hand on the table. "Impossible. No weapon can destroy a fleet so silently." But the old alien knew. His voice trembled, yet carried the weight of certainty. "He is here." The chamber fell into horrified silence. The doors to the council hall groaned suddenly, a deep metallic sound that echoed like thunder. Guards rushed forward, raising their weapons, but even their hands shook. The doors shook again, as if struck from the outside. Boom, boom, boom. With every hit, the lights flickered. The leaders huddled back, their arrogance burned away, leaving only fear. Finally, the massive doors burst open. A figure stepped through the smoke. It was the human. His armor was broken in places, scarred from countless wars, but his presence filled the entire chamber with dread. His eyes glowed faintly beneath the cracked helmet, sharp and cold as steel. He said nothing at first. He only walked forward, slow and steady, as if he owned the ground beneath his feet. The guards tried to raise their weapons, but in a blur of motion, they were disarmed, their weapons scattered across the floor. None dared to stand again. The leaders, once rulers of empires, could only stare. The old alien whispered, his voice shaking. The phantom, the ghost of retribution. The human finally spoke. His voice was low, calm, but heavy with power. For years you thought me gone. For years you built empires on the ashes of others. For years you whispered my name only in fear. But I was always here, watching, waiting. His words struck harder than any weapon. The chamber trembled with silence. You sit here, pretending to rule the galaxy, he continued, his voice like a blade. But you are nothing. Your fleets burn. Your alliances break. And your fear has already defeated you before I ever raised my hand. One of the younger leaders tried to speak, his voice breaking. What do you want? The human turned his gaze toward him, and the leader fell silent instantly. What I want, the human said softly. I want justice. You call it war, but it is not war. It is punishment. He stepped closer to the table. The leaders pulled back as if his very presence burned them. His shadow stretched across them like the wings of death itself. You will not remember your victories, he said. You will not remember your conquests. When history speaks of you, it will only say one thing. You feared me. And in the end, fear destroyed you. Outside the chamber, alarms continued to blare. Ships were vanishing into nothing. Fleets that once ruled entire sectors were gone without a sound. The galaxy outside was already crumbling, and none of them could stop it. The old alien lowered his head. It is the end, he whispered. The human looked around the chamber one last time. His eyes were merciless, but there was no joy in them, only purpose. He turned, and as he stepped back toward the broken doors, his final words echoed through the chamber. The war has already begun, and it will not end until justice is done. With that, he disappeared into the smoke. For a long moment, no one moved. The most powerful leaders in the galaxy sat in silence, their bodies trembling, their eyes wide with terror. Their fleets were gone. Their trust was shattered. And now the legend they prayed would never return had stepped into their chamber. The ghost of retribution had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again.